This is Miss Goodell, and I'm going to talk today about making equivalent fractions. This concept comes in handy when you are adding fractions or subtracting fractions. It also comes in handy when you are comparing and ordering fractions, or reducing fractions, or putting them in simplest form. So in order for us to find equivalent fractions, let's start with a fraction like 1/2. One of the ways you can find an equivalent fraction is just by multiplying. If I use multiplication, then I have to multiply both the numerator, or the top number, and the denominator by the same number. So I could use just about any number. In this case, let's use the number 2. So if I wanted to multiply both numbers by 2, I would get 1 times 2 equals 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. Okay, let's do this another way, just to show you that I can use more than one number to come up with an equivalent fraction. So I'm using the same starting number, 1/2, and in order to find an equivalent fraction, let's multiply this one times 5. So again, I would multiply both numbers times the same thing. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. And so 1/2 is equal to 2/4. It's also equal to 5/10. Another way you can find equivalent fractions is division. So if I use division, I would have to be able to divide both the top and the bottom number, or the numerator and the denominator, by the same thing. Okay, you cannot divide one by one number and one by another number. They have to be divided or multiplied by the same exact number. So if I look at 4 and 6, I have to find a number that is a factor they have in common. Okay, 4 and 6 can both be divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 4/6 is equal to 2/3. Now I could also multiply that to come up with an equivalent fraction. Usually you'll want to divide to put them in lowest terms, but sometimes when you are adding or subtracting, you need to find a common denominator, and so you may need to multiply. Okay, let's do one more example with division. 24. Let's do 40. So 24 and 40 can both be divided by 2. They can both be divided by 4. They can also both be divided by 8. And I'm going to divide both of them by 8. Okay, sometimes I like to try using the largest number I can divide them both by. That makes them in simplest form, or it reduces them all the way. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. 40 divided by 8 is 5. So this comes in handy, especially when you are trying to put numbers in simplest form. If you divide by something and then you discover that it can also be divided again. So let's say I decided to divide 24 and 40 both by 2. So 24 divided by 2 is 12. 40 divided by 2 is 20. I know that 12 and 20 can both be divided again. So I just keep dividing if I want to put them in simplest form. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. That can also be divided again by 2. 6 divided by 2 and 10 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And so I still end up with the same answer if I repeatedly divide as I would if I would have started out dividing by 8. Okay, and this would be our simplest form for this one. So that's finding equivalent fractions and also a little bit of simplifying. I hope you got something out of this. Let me know if you have any questions.